Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. This is Church and World News. I got this email from Jeremy Chamberlain. Subject line, Architect of the Modern European Union dies at 98. So here we have another one that I've added to this list. If you're new, I have this list of notable people that have all passed away relatively close to each other. Starting with Shinzo Abe, who was assassinated on the 8th of July, 2022. That's when this list begins. Since that time, we've noticed all these different people that you see the different columns right here that are either the longest living of their type or the longest in office, or they were the first or the last, or they're royalty of some kind, whether it's official royalty, like actual royalty, or whether it's pop culture, like King of Soccer, for example. It's not actually a king, but they have that nickname. Because for some people, pop culture, sports, whatever, that is their idol. And then column I, which is people that are otherwise notable or represent an era. So let's just do a quick recap of what we have here. So we have Shinzo Abe, longest serving prime minister of Japan. Mikhail Gorbachev, longest living leader of the Soviet Union. We're not going to have another one of those again. Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning British monarch and second longest reigning sovereign worldwide behind French Louis XIV. Then we have President Nelson. Now, he's still alive. I have him on here just to show that all these people that represent these world powers, empires, organizations, and things like that, he's still alive while all of them are passing away. Okay, so, and I have 98 here because that's when he became the oldest living prophet or apostle of this dispensation. Okay, so that was on September 9th of 2022. After that, Jiang Zemin, the longest living president of China and leader of the Chinese Communist Party. December 11th, Abigail Kawana-Akoa, last Hawaiian princess. The 29th of December, Edson Arantes do Nascimento, a.k.a. Pele, the king of soccer. On New Year's Eve, the longest living pope of all time, Pope Emeritus Benedict, passed away. And then January 10th, the last king of Greece, Constantine II, passed away. And most of that time he was in exile, but he is the last king of Greece. Lisa Marie Presley, Princess of Rock, she passed away the 12th of January. Lucille Randon, the longest living nun of all time, passed away on the 17th of January, which is very strange after the longest living pope died just a couple weeks earlier. That's so unlikely. It's so unlikely that would happen. And then Tina Turner, the queen of rock and roll, the 24th of May. The 28th of September, Dianne Feinstein, the longest serving woman in the U.S. Senate history. The 29th of November, we have Henry Kissinger. He's the only one that I have on this list that I have under column I as notable, just because he represents an era. And according to the New York Times and others, he was the most powerful Secretary of State in the post-World War II era. So he was a very, very influential figure. Most of the time, whenever I think of him, I think about the Vietnam War, but he had a big influence on basically foreign relations of the United States. Okay, and then on the 1st of December, Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to serve as a Supreme Court justice. And then the most recent one, Jacques Delors, architect of modern European Union and longest serving European Commission president. So here we have another longest in office. So it's all very strange. And again, there's people that say that there's nothing to this, but there is, because you can't replicate this. There's never going to be another last king of Greece, or there's not going to be another Soviet Union. Like, okay, well, hold on. Maybe there could be, but it's very unlikely. Replicating or surpassing Queen Elizabeth II, it's taken all of history to produce her. She's only behind French King Louis XIV as far as like when you're looking at all sovereigns worldwide. It's taken this long to produce her being the longest reigning sovereign behind him. So it's very unlikely. They're all clustered together, and it's going to be hard to replicate this at any time in the future. That's why I think that this is there's something to this, that it's a sign. It's a sign of these world powers, each one of these people representing their respective country or church or sport or whatever, music, and these eras coming to an end, because we're about to enter into a new era where Christ is king and he rules, and righteousness will prevail, and the old world order will be over with. Finally, thank goodness. So let's go to this BBC News article. Architect of modern European Union, Jacques Delors, dies aged 98. He helped create the single market, allowing the free movement of people, goods, and services within the bloc. Serving from 1985 to 1995, Delors also laid the groundwork for the single European currency, the euro. And I remember when that happened. It blew my mind that happened. And then I actually, handled euros when I went on my mission to Spain in 2004 to 2006. And I still have some of those somewhere. I had a collection. It's pretty cool. But anyway, for those skeptical of integration, especially in the UK, he was seen as a symbol of Brussels meddling. French President Emmanuel Macron praised Delors, who also served as French finance minister from 1981 to 1984, as a, quote, statesman with a French destiny and inexhaustible craftsman of our Europe. His commitment, his ideals, and his righteousness, will always inspire us, he said. I salute his work and his memory and share the pain of his loved ones, end quote. He served three terms as European Commission president, longer than anyone else. So there it is. Ursula von der Leyen, who currently holds the post, said he was a, quote, visionary who made our Europe stronger, end quote. European Council President Charles Michel described him as a, quote, great Frenchman and a great European who had entered history as one of the builders of our Europe, end quote. A French socialist, he was a firm believer in post-war integration. But for the UK's ruling Conservative Party under Margaret Thatcher, moves towards a federal Europe was seen as anathema. Thatcher described the 1989 Delors report calling for economic and monetary union as unacceptable because it would wrest many economic policies from the hands of the British Parliament. He remained true to his federalist ideals. More recently, he warned of the dangers of populism in Europe, calling for bold moves in the wake of Brexit. So he was on that side, socialist, all that. But yeah, this whole time that we've had the European Union, it's been an era. It's been a powerful block of countries, and it fits in really well with this list. Again, Japan, Soviet Union, the UK, China, Hawaii, Catholic Church, Greece. And then as we're getting toward the end of the list, you start having these people representing the United States. Three of them. We have the Senate, or the legislative branch, represented by Dianne Feinstein. You have the executive branch with Henry Kissinger. And then you have the judicial branch with Sandra Day O'Connor. So it's like the entire U.S. government, the three branches, are represented through these three people. And now the most recent one is the entirety of the European Union. So these are major powers and players on the world stage. Now, when it comes to the executive branch, what we're actually waiting for is Jimmy Carter. And he went into hospice care earlier this year in February. And I decided to check on that and see, if there's any news. And there you have this twincities.com, Pioneer Press, Heath Bartness. Heath Bartness. The experience of Rosalynn and Jimmy Carter helps widen the perception of hospice. So he's still alive. I don't know when he's going to pass, but I wanted to read a little bit from here. In 2023, the public benefited from the willingness of President Jimmy Carter and his family to openly share their health updates. Hospice care has gotten a renewed focus, and the Carter's end-of-life journey is illuminating a complicated story of hospice use in the United States. Different sides on the same coin, the hospice experiences of President and Mrs. Carter are kindling a much-needed conversation around this underused service. Hospice provides dignified, compassionate, end-of-life care to patients and their families, offered at little to no cost through Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. First introduced to the United States in the 1970s, the modern hospice benefits have been available to Americans for nearly 5 decades, but recent data reflects the general public's hesitation to pursue end-of-life care. According to the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, the median length of time, okay, now look at this, because we're thinking about, how much longer does Jimmy Carter have? The median length of time a person spends on hospice in the United States is only 17 days, a small fraction of the time they may be eligible to receive care. Barriers to hospice care are not so much financial or geographical. In many ways, the greatest barrier to hospice is emotional. Of all the hospice misconceptions, the most detrimental may be that hospice is, quote unquote, giving up. The reality is that patients who begin hospice earlier have higher quality of life, fewer hospitalizations, and lower medical costs. As demonstrated by the Carters, hospice is not throwing in the towel. Hospice is healthcare. It is a shift in focus from curative treatment to comfort and quality of life. Hospice is also not indicative of imminent death, nor is it a death sentence. In fact, a widely cited study has shown that hospice patients live an average of 29 days longer than terminally ill patients without hospice care. Which, okay, it's not like a long time. It's not years, but okay. Hospice is available to those with a life expectancy of 6 months or less. And as President Carter has shown us, patients can outlive an initial 6-month prognosis. It is not uncommon for hospice patients to receive hospice recertification, extending their end-of-life care. One of the most common sentiments hospice care teams hear from their patients and families is, "I wish we had started hospice sooner." So, it seems like typically it is, at the end of life, and people don't really stay there for too long before they pass away. But he's been there since February, so literally any day, it would seem to me like any day he's probably going to pass away. And I feel like he would be like the grand finale of this series of people. If you're just looking at the countries and the way that the Lord looks at the United States, it's a special country. It has been in decline. There's corruption and stuff like that, but still, it's because of the United States that the church was able to be restored. The Lord had his hand in it, and so maybe it would be the last one in this list to be represented before the second coming. I don't know, but something is going on here. Like, seriously, something is going on here. All right, well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.